I think about it first in terms of where it physically hits me. Shoulders, tension here,
Yeah.
and probably behind the eyes as well. So it affects your mood, and goes into sleep as well. But how do you produce stuff all the time, all day long? You know, how do you come up with something new? And it's because I allow myself to do that, you know, and I train myself to do that.
And if you stay still for too long, no matter how comfortable your chair is, you're gonna make a static stress.
If you went and got in your car after someone else has been driving it,
Mm-hmm.
you would change the mirrors, and you would change the seat, and you would angle the mirrors here. You know, you'd make yourself ready for the next bit of the drive, wouldn't you? People need to start building that into the way that they're working at the desk as well. They end one task, and rather than reset themselves ready for the next task and giving themselves a little bit of a break as well, they get on with the next task, and they sort of just like push the stuff here, but then they're fighting against that stuff. Do these little resets during the day
and try to push through it inefficiently, ignoring the stress instead of taking a break, getting creative, and solving the problem easily.
People feel that management are actually telling them that that's the way they've got to work? Or do you think it's more a case of people assume that managers are watching them and that's the way they've got to work? They've got to be on it all of the time and can't have this balance.
Adrenaline, cortisol, what actually makes you addicted to having this stress. So you physically and psychologically don't really want to get out of this state once you get into this loop. If you have encouraging environment like a boss or a manager who is having the same problem, going through the same thing without managing it, he will expect this kind of behavior to be normal.
It's a cyclical type of thing. If your management are stressed, then the people below them are likely to be stressed as well, because they expect that kind of behavior, because that's their behavior.
Exactly.
Actually, a lot of systems still tear towards a hierarchical system and a micromanaged system, which isn't necessarily the right way to go. So I'm not going to get stressed out about it though, because you know I'm in the flow and I'm in management of my stress. People may go like that. The boredom people look at the stress people and think and go, oh well, you know, they're just so silly, they're just going to burn out. So I'm just going to go more into this boredom play on Facebook here for an hour. And the stress people are looking at the people who are bored and go, why am I doing all the work? And they're getting more anxious about it.
And if you're not feeling good, then it's a symptom of not having that meaning, not having that purpose.
I feel good. And you know, that's the truth, because people do want to feel good. And that's what really resonates with people. Hello, it's Graham Coath, and it's midday on Friday. And in a minute, I'm going to be speaking to Toms. But first, let's have this. I need to get going, Mel. See you later. Toms, so thankful that you could join me on this wonderful Friday. Is it sunny where you are? Because it's beautiful here today in Somerset.
Yeah, it's sunny here.
Lovely.
It's a bit cloudy, a bit of a haze of Kalima, but otherwise it's nice and warm and sunny.
Lovely. Where are you coming from today?
Today I'm from Tenerife, one of the digital nomad capitals.
It is, absolutely. You're a digital nomad yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah. How long have you been a digital nomad, just out of interest?
It's been on and off a couple of years.
Yeah. What attracted you to the lifestyle?
Freedom.
And
a warm weather.
Every time,
Yeah.
absolutely. Now, today we're here to speak. I'll bring the poster up again briefly about loving your stress. Now, a lot of people would look at that and go, well, you can't love stress, surely. but we're here to say, yes, you can. And it's all about getting that relationship, I suppose, with stress right, isn't it?
Definitely.
Yeah.
And actually, before we go to loving our stress, what I've noticed from my experience is that every time when we talk about stress, we all know what it feels like, how it manifests. We all know the feeling of stress. But the problem is once we try to put it into the words and try to express it to someone else, we have asked 10 people and you have 10 different definitions. So I'm just curious, what would be your definition of the stress?
Oh, that's a really interesting question. I guess I think about it first in terms of where it physically hits me. Is that something that a lot of people say? So I would guess shoulders, tension here. Yeah. And probably behind the eyes as well. But what else in terms of stress? I guess things like just feeling that you just are having a bad day out of that as well. So it affects your mood and goes into sleep as well. Certainly affects your sleep if you're overly stressed.
Yeah, I love how you said that overly stressed, because it links into the love your stress part. Would you agree? At least for me. Yes.
Absolutely. So let's talk about that. And the reason I said overly stressed is because at the same time, I am the kind of person that is on the go 24 hours a day. Right? I am entrepreneurial. My mind's always going. And for me, I need, whether you want to call it stress, adrenaline, pressure, the positive pressure, whatever you want to call it, I need that in order to, make me do what I do. I'm a very creative person, and that has to have a push in it, and a lot of people when I talk about what I do and LinkedIn in particular, etc., they will go, yeah, but how do you produce stuff all the time, all day long? How do you come up with something new? And it's because I allow myself to do that, and I train myself to do that. So and you have to have the energy that's created out of that need to do it. In fact, I just got off the phone speaking to someone just now, and I actually said, well, the problem that you've got at the moment is that you're not putting yourself under enough stress. Yeah. So should we talk about that? I mean, and that's an issue for a lot of people in the workplace. They, in a way, they back away from putting themselves into a situation where stress can enable them.
Definitely, because most of the time when people talk about stress is talking about de-stress and overstress. And everyone kind of knows what it is, but not so many people talk about not having enough stress to motivate you, just being bored and lazy in a workplace, and that's also a stress.
Yeah, well, it's the worst kind of stress, I think, in a way. If you're bored, then you're just looking for things to preoccupy you most of the time, etc. And it's probably the worst stress for anyone employing someone as well, isn't it? I mean, you don't. The last thing you want is for your people. Well, I guess both things. You don't want your people to be bored, which is something that one of the BBC stories last week was talking about. There's a huge rise in terms of people being bored from working from home, and alongside that, at the same time, there were a lot of stories from about burnout. And I guess those are the two opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of stress.
Definitely.
So what can we do about it? What helps us here, Toms?
Well, the first thing, as I said, is having the drive and mindset of wanting to, allowing yourself to feel stress. And that's why you have to love it. It's because, as you said, you have these two opposite ends of the stress, boredom and burnout. And because it's always going to be there, the stress, and you want to be that in the middle sweet spot. Some people call it the peak state, some people call it flow, call it what you want, but you're going to have stress in your life. And that's why you have to love your stress and be aware of it. And in order to be aware of it, you have to notice how does it affect you and have those symptoms you described earlier in the conversation. So just being aware, okay, my neck is a bit stiff. That means I'm getting stressed. That goes to the burnout side. Or I'm just getting tired. My eyes are getting a bit more heavier. And I'm getting bored. So I'm getting to other side. So I need to bring it up. So the stress management in itself is about noticing these things, diagnosing as a stress, getting unhealthy relationship with stress, and correcting them, looking for those ways. That's in. How about you?
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm just going to ask you, in terms of things like environment, and there may be some of the things that we do at work, or some of the things that we interact with. Are there particular things that are not helpful? I'm thinking for myself that you know, in terms of a working environment, I need to mix that up during the day. I need to, you know, I've got the ability here to stand and work. I've got the ability to sit and work. I've got the ability to go outside and work, and all of those things really help, both in terms of, you know, keeping me psychologically on track in terms of giving me new reference points, but also helping me stay in that flow, if you like, as opposed to getting bored because I'm in the same environment and zone, or you know, or getting stressed because I feel too enclosed, if you like. When you've been talking to people about this in the past, is how important is environment?
Yeah, I do the same practice as you. It's because the human body is made to move, and if you stay still for too long, no matter how comfortable your chair is, you're gonna make a static stress. And the same for the hands when you type on the laptop. No matter how comfortable you are, you do need to have those breaks and just move, make rolls, whatever. As you do, you change your environment completely. Not everyone is able to do that, unfortunately. So they need to take care of a actual condition there. What are your thoughts about this?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think it's essential that people vary what they do, when even at the same space. So you know, there's something I've talked to people about over the years in terms of work environment, which is that a lot of people don't even bother to make changes to their environment before they do another task, and actually resetting at points during the day is really healthy, because it resets the body at the same time and the mind at the same time. And it's from a physical point of view, it's really very good as well. And the sort of example I always give people is, if you went and got in your car after someone else has been driving it, you would change the mirrors, and you would change the seat, and you would angle the mirrors here, you know, and you would that's a bit hot there, so I'm going to turn that down a little bit, you know, I might open the window a bit. You'd make yourself ready for the next bit of the drive, wouldn't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So people need to start building that into the way that they're working at the desk as well. So it's like, don't always come in and, you know, not bother to adjust the seat and try and get the seat comfortable, or not bother to you know, think, oh, actually, that's a long way over there. I might, you know, this task, I'm going to be doing this. So let's get this ready for this. And I see over the years, I see people sort of like struggling with their environment as well, because what they do is they go, you know, they end one task, and rather than reset themselves ready for the next task and giving themselves a little bit of a break as well, they get on with the next task, and they sort of just like push the stuff here, but then they're fighting against that stuff. So now they're twisting and turning, and it's awful. So yeah, that would be my take on it. I think you really need to do these little resets during the day. And breaks are incredibly important. I mean, how important would you say it is that, you know, people stop, take on food when they really need to take on food, they take on water when they need to take on water, that, you know, and from time to time they just physically switch off from that digital world and you know, go somewhere else for 5 minutes.
Yeah, I really love how you brought up the topic about taking those breaks and resetting, and that example about the car resetting seat. That's so juicy that because people understand it. It's so good example. And you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't drive the car if you're not uncomfortable. You know that you can crash if you don't see the mirrors. For same with the resetting.
Yeah, absolutely. When people come to you to help them through this kind of experience, and you work with them, what's the one thing that you always see in the way that people are working?
Well, the problem is that I don't actually see the people working, because I do the meetings online, and I just see them when they show up to my meetings. So I don't actually see them caught in a crime or caught in action, you know. So that's I cannot really answer this question. How about you? What do you see?
Well, it's the same for me. These days I don't do it. So, but back in the day, I would actually go and observe people working. So I would actually see them doing. But what I'm saying is from a example of these people that come to you, is there something similar between each of them that you always see? Not physically see, but, you know, in terms of their mental, you know, their mental setup, or the type of person.
The type of person is the most common theme is that people notice their stress, they know it's there, but it's the mindset. They don't really want to get rid of it.
Oh, right.
So it's kind of like, I have this task, I want to finish it, I'm feeling uncomfortable, and instead of going for a walk, having a reset, making sure that I'm working on a peak performance, no, I rather push myself and keep on focusing narrower on this problem and try to push through it inefficiently, ignoring the stress, instead of taking a break, getting creative, and solving the problem easily. So that's the biggest.
And do you think this is actually more of a psychological problem that people have about their place at work? By that I mean, you know, where they fit into the system at work, or do you think it actually comes down from management? Do you think that people feel that management are actually telling them that that's the way they've got to work? Or do you think it's more a case of people assume that managers are watching them and that's the way they've got to work? They've got to be on it all of the time and can't have this balance.
It's a good point. I know what you mean, and I think it's a good point, and I think they're both related because there's it's like a puzzle. The one thing is that you have chemicals, your hormones, adrenaline, cortisol, what actually makes you addicted to having this stress. So you physically and psychologically don't really want to get out of this state once you get into this loop. So that's one factor of it. However, if you have encouraging environment like a boss or a manager who is having the same problem, who is having the same psychology and going through the same thing without managing it, he will expect this kind of behavior to be normal, and he will encourage and say, oh, yeah, what you're doing is right, keep on doing that, keep pushing. And that's like the other side of the coin, where you have these everyone the same, having the same problem, and it's just a peer pressure coming onto you.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. So actually, it's a cyclical type of thing. If your management are stressed, then the people below them are likely to be stressed as well, because they kind of expect that kind of behavior. I've never thought about because that's their behavior, but that's really interesting.
Exactly.
Because they expect that kind of behavior because that's their behavior.
Exactly.
Right. So in that respect, if people are looking for a way out of this, you'd really like to see managers first, in a way.
And then the culture, like the managers first, they would lead by example. Yeah. And then, of course, they need to make sure as a feedback that there's encouraging culture.
Right. Absolutely. No, that makes a lot of sense. And I agree with that. And I just before lockdown happened, I was beginning to do quite a lot of work around sort of different management structures as well, because I believe that there's still a lot of very archaic management structures out there, which are very sort of micro management driven and very sort of hierarchical based. And I don't know what you think, but I think maybe more modern, agile ways of management, which are sort of more team based as opposed to that hierarchy, and with, kind of more sort of checking in on the team and making sure that the team don't have the obstacles in the way are better than, just giving people, there's your KPIs, that's what's expected of you, get on with it, etc. And then those KPIs have filtered down, as you say, from management who've got their own KPIs. So they're like, Jeff's got to be doing that, because if Jeff doesn't do that, I don't get my figures for the month, and I'm stressed about my figures for the month, and I've got to do this, etc. And I've got to show the person at the top that I'm doing everything that I possibly can do. So yeah, I believe that how a business is structured, that the more agile it is in terms of its management structure and teamwork, the better it is as well. Is that what you found?
Definitely. The structure has to be flexible enough and clear enough for the people to understand. However, I love to think it as a root cause in mindset. So you could have any kind of structure. It's like a tool. You could use hammer to nail the wall, or you could use hammer to hit on your thumbs. Yeah. So if your mindset doesn't change, you could use any kind of structure will not make any lasting improvements in the company's productivity, income, or just the happiness and well-being of the employees. So I would say mindset first. And once you have a right mindset, you will start seeing and searching out and accepting the better structures and systems. That's how I see it.
That's interesting. Yeah, no, absolutely. So you've got to decide that this is the way that you want to be.
Set those standards.
And then you in looking for culture change, because you need to imbibe that culture across the organization, that's where you then start looking at what fits in terms of a structure that actually enables us to meet that culture. Yeah, no, absolutely true. And for me, that was where I started looking at things like OKRs and alternative systems from that kind of hierarchical management structure. What amazes me still, though, is the amount of sort of systems, etc., that still have to try and pin you into a hierarchical system. So still to this day, if you buy into an HR system or whatever, it tries to map out the company rather than like in circles, if you like, and in overlapping teams. It tries to map the company structure from there like that. you know, and it's a bit of a it's a bit of a difficult one, really, because I think actually a lot of systems still tear towards a hierarchical system and a micromanaged system, which isn't necessarily the right way to go. Ashley, thank you for joining us this morning. Good morning. I'm Graham. That's what happens when you put a space between something. I'm not going to get stressed out about it, though, because I'm in the flow and I'm in management of my stress. If anyone's got any questions about stress management or being in the flow, do let us know. So, I mean, you deal with people in stress situations across, not just in the workplace, but in other areas of their life as well. But in terms of the workplace, is there any particular kind of work that you or that you mainly see people stressed with?
Not specifically any kind of work. No.
What? No particular industries that are particularly highly stressed out, like
sales.
Banking, sales. Right.
Sales.
Yeah. What is it? What is it about sales? Is it the pipeline structure of sales? Is it the fact that everything's based on the result?
Yeah, it's a kind of expectation that you have to meet those targets, and once you get close to the deadline and you're not really seeing those results yet, it's very likely for the people to get into the old habits and thinking that more stress will solve the problem, and they get into this rabbit hole of thinking, okay, because in the beginning you need to put that, because you're kind of like a bit too relaxed, there's no targets, you need to put a bit more stress, and it has to stop at some point. And once the deadline comes up, or just coming closer and closer, you don't see the results yet, if that's the case, or you're having your own ambition, then it's so easy to fall off the edge of the productive stress and just thinking, okay, I need to increase a bit more. Okay, I need to increase a bit more. I need to push myself a bit more. And that's the pattern I see.
Interesting. While you were saying that, it made me think, is part of the issue as well that different people deal with their stress or go towards a particular end of the stress as well, and therefore within a team, especially like a sales team, and I guess I've seen this, as the stress point mounts, because you're getting through the month, the sales target, there's the board up there, the sales haven't necessarily been as good as they should. People may go like that. So you may have one part of the team who are like heading towards anxiety, etc., about this, and trying to work later and work harder, not get away from the desk or whatever. And then you get another group of people that just go, well, do you know what? That's not going to happen. So I'm just going to play on Facebook here for an hour, and I'm just going to get, and they go into boredom factor. But actually, within that whole scenario, what then happens is that the boredom people look at the stress people and think that are heading towards the burnout and go, oh, well, they're just so silly, they're just going to burn out. So I'm just going to go more into this boredom. And the stress people are looking at the people who are bored and go, why am I doing all the work? Yeah. And they're getting more anxious about it, whereas nobody's bringing that, as you say, collective balance and flow to that, so that actually the team as a whole can reset maybe and go, right, okay, let's just get in control of this, and let's go with the flow towards what we can achieve, and once you get in your rhythm and in your stride, and you're actually using that as a more positive energy, then you're more likely to get there, because everybody's on board with it. Is that something you think you see?
Yeah, definitely. However, depending on the manager, if manager notices that boredom part, and if he's empathize with the highly stressed ones, he might decide that we don't need those bored people anymore.
True. But then again, at the same time, boredom is, as we say, it's a sign of stress in a way as well. So in a way, both people need the opportunity to get that right. And actually, I think for a lot of people, they don't want to go to work to be bored. They're bored at work because there's something wrong there in the culture of that work that's not going right. In the same way, no one wants to go to work stressed. How important do you think it is that not only does a company get the sort of stress culture right, or get that sweet spot, as you say, in terms of stress, but it's really important that a company really embeds within its staff the sort of main goals of that company? Because I know that a lot of people will go to work for a company and don't really understand what that company's about. They understand what it is that they're doing, right? They understand their job, but they don't really buy into what the business is about. And for me, part of good stress, if you like, is completely believing every single day in what I'm doing. Yeah. And knowing that the bigger objective of what I'm trying to do is worth doing it for, right? Because otherwise, I think if you just think, oh, I'm going to work I've just got to go through these spreadsheets, and I don't really know why I'm doing it, but I'm just doing. I know I've got to do it. If you don't see the bigger picture, if you don't see
meaning,
the meaning.
For me, it's meaning. Me, it's meaning.
Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about that. What does meaning mean then? What should people be looking for in terms of meaning?
So in my case, what I would love to mention here is I love how Tony Robbins puts it. A human has 6 needs, 4 basic, and 2 of them are fulfillment. So it's certainty, variety, love, connection, significance, love, which is connection, and growth. And depending which ones you value the most, there's where you're gonna try to source your meaning from. Yeah. So if you're really encouraged by getting appreciation, if you value significance a lot, then your meaning will most likely be sourced by some encouragement from the colleagues, from the boss, saying, "Oh, good job, Toms, you did it well," and you feel more significant. Oh, I'm really great, and that gives a kind of a meaning in your life. And depending where you are in the spectrum here, that's where you're gonna find this. Why I'm actually doing this? Yeah, to feel good. Because as I see it, at the end of the day, it's really simple. And simple. We all want to feel good. As blunt as it sounds, we all want to feel good. It's the thing that we get the feeling good from different things. And if we don't feeling good, what we're doing, then it's a symptom of not having that meaning, not having that purpose. Why am I actually doing this? And then you lose this part of yourself. And having that satisfaction is that what enables, yeah.
Do you know what? That's a great place to end. I think you're absolutely right. And that is why that song resonates so well. Everybody sung that song at one point in their life where I feel good. And you know, that's the truth. Awesome. You know, the reason that part of that lyric of that song resonates so much is because people do want to feel good. And that's what really resonates with people. Toms, you've been a great guest today. Thank you so much for exploring the topic of loving your stress with myself. If people are listening to this and they feel, you know, that's made an awful lot of sense. That's the kind of culture that we've got at the moment, and it's not particularly healthy. And they'd like to get in touch with you to sort something out. There's your name.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna even try and pronounce your surname. How do you say that?
Toms Astachovskis.
There you go.
You can find it on my LinkedIn profile. There's a really cool feature on a LinkedIn where you go to the profile and you press the speaker icon, and then you can hear me pronounce my name again.
It's the best way. I have a similar one for Coath, because believe it or not, people can't pronounce my surname right, even though it's just Coath with an H on the end, right? And believe it or not, when I go to hotels and things, people can't spell it, even though I tell them how to spell it letter by letter. But there you go. That's the thing about names. They're incredibly difficult sometimes. But Toms, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Bram.
I hope people have enjoyed this. If you've got comments throughout the day as you're watching this on LinkedIn, please put them in the comments, and I'll make sure those comments do get over to Toms throughout the day. Bye for now.